Right, so welcome back from the break. We get into the second discussions right away. And I have in the studio here to my left, Kwadwo Acheampong is a senior investment analyst and head of OctaneDC research. Good evening to you, Kwadwo Acheampong, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good evening very much, Chairman.
I hope you're doing very well.
I'm doing very, very
good.
good.
To you as well.
Glad to be here.
And my very good friend and professor, I call him the professor, Dr. Richmond Kwame Frimpong, is, for the purposes of this discussion, I will state that he is an author of the New Year Fresh Start best-selling book. Good evening to you as well, Doc.
Good evening.
It's been a long while. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
And last year, I remember we spoke to you and you made an emphatic statement, and I did that when I was doing the introduction for tonight. You said if you don't have a cover of your 3-month salary, you're joking.
That is correct.
I remember that clearly, and in the last few days, I've been trying to check my account and the amount of money I have in it to see whether I'm strong enough to meet you today and to be able to tell you about how I have planned my whole year. But I mean, the focus of the discussion tonight, if you're watching us, is planning yourself, particularly financially, for the year 2022. Are you prepared for 2022? You went to church on the 31st night of December 2021. You prayed to God, you made a lot of resolutions, and you prayed that this year, something has to change about you. Things have to turn around for you. But that doesn't happen without an action. That doesn't happen without your works. So how are you working towards the change that you're expecting in the year 2022? New Year resolutions. And ours is in the field of business. So I'll go straight to Kwadwo to ask him how important, first of all, is this. And then I would now come down to be asking about what are the exact things we need to do for the year 2022. So Kwadwo, you're welcome. Let me ask you directly, how important is the resolutions and the planning for a new year?
Well, I think it goes without saying that insofar as your finances are concerned, you really can't do anything except for planning to make sure that you end at least a year or a certain period successfully when it comes to finances. So right from the get-go, you want to plan. You want to make sure that you have a certain aim, and you've outlined certain steps that you intend to take before the end of that period, and at least during which you realize that you're coming closer and closer to your aim or your target.
Mm-hmm. So let me bring the same question to you, and I'll dovetail that into your book. Maybe towards the end of the show, we'll speak briefly about it. But you see, fresh start, fresh year, or new year, fresh start. How to make the new year your best year ever. I will ask you how important is the resolutions, and now we can now begin how you want to make or how you are able to make as a person a new year, because every first is a new year. And if you look at some of us, our ages, we've had at least a number of years as New Year's, and we are still going on. Some people haven't been able to do anything meaningful for their lives. People who sit and pray and expect that this year, God, let me have 1 million Ghana cedis. How do you get that? Unless God sends manna from heaven. So let me throw that to you, Doc.
Well, thank you, and good evening to our viewers. Resolutions are great, just that they are only wish lists. And so it's great to have a resolution for a new year like this, but if you notice, just the last past month, anybody you meet will say, I wish you something, and it's always positive. It's a wish, and that is where it ends. And so resolutions dovetail into wish lists. So you wish that something will change. You wish that something good will happen. And as we've gotten into a new year, your resolve is that what probably didn't go well in the year before will change. The only downside to this is that your resolution alone doesn't take you where you want to get to. So just having a resolution is only good for getting hope and getting excited. But what really can take you there and make your lists which is a wish list work, would be the work you put into achieving what you are wishing to have. And that work is your plan, your strategy, and your action. If you put together a deliberate plan for this whole 12 months, which is getting into its 4th day, and out of that plan, you set up a certain clarity in terms of where you want to get to in specific areas of your life, So your finance, your academics, your career, your marriage relationships, your health, your anything that matters to you. Clearly, in this journey of the next 12 months, you set aside something you want to achieve. And then in there, you put together the strategy, which is about what exactly I have to do differently to achieve it. So your strategy is, what must I do differently to achieve what I could not achieve in the year before, or to even do better than I did, or to do well in the areas that I did a little bit okay, but not as I was expecting. Then you put specific timelines to them and specific deliverables to them. And then you monitor them to work towards them. You don't just wish them, you work towards them. So you look at them and say, what can I do daily to take me closer to that? If you put these together and you commit yourself to doing that, it takes you beyond just putting together a resolution. And that is the only difference between the one who will do well by December 31st, 2022, and the one who will just look back and not be too excited.
To be able to put all of these things down in your planning and in a strategy should give you some results by the end of the year, 31st of December.
Right.
So I'll come back to you. I wanted a copy of the book, and I wanted to ask, if I pick the book today, book that you have sold in over 32 countries, what will I find in? And if I read the book today and I begin to go by the principles, so I'll come back to ask you what is in the book, and then what kind of results I'm to expect. Because I remember that video that went very viral between you and myself, where a lot of people, and I've seen that this year, people still sharing that again. And we hope that in the next maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, we'll go through all one by one. But let me come to you, Kwadwo, specific finance. What are the things we need to do? A lot of people are thinking very wild, the amount of money they need, the kind of contracts and breakthroughs they need, the amount of savings they have to make. Others believe that I don't need to make savings. I rather need to make investments and be able to reap at the end of the year. What exactly should we do as people?
Well, see, we, or let's say most of us, earn a salary. And it's only as good as that. It's a certain amount of income that comes at a certain time of the month, hopefully. It comes consistently. And when it comes, it's supposed to meet certain expenses. Now, we've gone about this for quite a long time. I mean, month in, month out. And we see ourselves living hand to mouth. As soon as the salaries hit, they go into the expenses. And if we are lucky, the month ends before, the salaries envelope us. What we want to do is to take a critical look at both things. How much we earn, and then what we spend on. Because if we haven't evaluated what we are earning and what we need to spend on at the end of the day, we'll always have a problem of what to meet, what other expense. And it's going to go on being cyclical. Definitely, we have to start somewhere. And for most of us, we are at the point where we realize that no matter how we look at things, our salaries definitely can't meet our expenses. And that's the sad fact. To start with, we know we definitely have to have some form of savings. We hopefully need to graduate this savings into an investment, no matter what form. Now, we'll come to distinguishing what is a savings and then what's an investment. A savings is what you would put down usually for short-term and emergency financial needs. They come up as and when, not expected, but they come out when you least expect. And you have to have money to meet them. And usually this money is cash, just in cash form. Investments, on the other hand, is money that you have set aside very purposefully to work for you, in the sense of earning and adding to your income, so that, it's some kind of supplementary form of earning. Now, where do we start? After we have examined all our earnings and our income, and we realize that this part is not enough to meet this, there are two clear things. We need to increase our earnings, or we need to decrease our expenses, or we need to do both. I mean, definitely. So, to increase our earnings, we need to start looking around for what things we can do. I mean, if I earn at the end of the month 500 Ghana cedis, and I know I have a certain skill, maybe basket weaving, a hobby that I'm very good at, but I haven't really developed and sort of commercialized. This could be a time to start looking at it, because you can only have hobbies and not do anything about them when you are probably as rich as
Dangote.
Exactly. You see, you can afford to do that. But if you're like, you and I, you need to look at transferring those skills, those hobbies, into very marketable commodities for yourself.
Someone has said that Corona taught us a lot of things. It taught a lot of people that they had so much within them. Some people learned new trades. Some people had other things that they developed and have started making money to the extent that they have not even gone back to their old jobs and so on and so forth. But someone watching us today would think that this financial expert sitting down talking doesn't know that salaries in Ghana are too small to save some amount of it, depending on how much I get. But let me come back to you. Okay. I'll come back to Kwadwo. And in summary, when we pick the book today, New Year, fresh ideas. What do we expect? How do we get results by the end of the year?
Unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint somebody who is looking for a quick fix. So you don't get the book and all of a sudden everything turns around with a stroke of a pen. No. It requires some effort. And I start the book with a quote that says, until you get into action, you are only a fan of your dreams. And so there is some work you have to put your hands to this year if you want something to change. Now, I've divided it into about 7 different parts in the 200-page book.
Okay, so that's what we see on the screen now.
Right. And in that part, the introductory part talks about the new paradigm, a new understanding of what New Year is. Many people think New Year is some magical...
Can the producer put the line, the introductory line up on the screen for us? Just that, as Doc goes through that.
So you see the new paradigm. The new paradigm talks about the new way of thinking about New Year. New Year doesn't change anything really. There's nothing really new. It's just a flip of a calendar that we have created as human beings to say we have entered a new year. But really it's nothing new. Your bed sheet doesn't change. Your bank account doesn't change. Even your landlord doesn't change. Your rent doesn't just expire. Nothing really changes in the new year until you change. So that's a paradigm concept. Then I talk about what really becomes new in the new year. It's the you factor, not just the year. You rather must change and not just a number of the 2021, 2022. And I talk about time zones in the new year. Actually, before we got into new year, China, Australia had already gotten in there. So it's not really anything about all of a sudden something changing for you. And lastly, I talk about the common denominator and the action board. So this formed the introduction of the book. In the part 1, I talk about what I call the substratum, and I say do what is hard. Many people think that something will just work for them because we said this is a year of exploit in his church, or we said this is a year of increase. Or we said this is a year of breakthrough,
new beginning.
That tagline alone doesn't change who you become in the new year. And so you have to go back to do what is hard. You skipped savings, you skipped getting up early to learn as a student, you skipped building yourself up hard in your office, in your career. All the hard things you skipped, it will not change the outcome. You have to go back and do what they said. And I share a number of things there. In the part 2, I talk about the New Year resolution, pausing and fixing your proton. So fixing your proton simply means the things that matter to you, your purpose, your vision, planning, your unique selling proposition, your daily routine, your execution strategic plan that you have to put in place. And then I end with dashboard. The third part talks about getting rid of the old and making room for the new. And so there are a number of things I cite that change. If you don't change, nothing changes. The fourth part talks about putting together a just weight. Many people are skewed towards career. If you take them out of career, they don't do anything for themselves. Health doesn't count. Finance doesn't count. Many people are good in one area of their lives. The other doesn't matter. If you want the year to work well, you need a just weight. And I share the specific areas you need to do. Then the fifth area talks about holding yourself accountable. How would you be able to tell if 2022 has been great financially, maritally, spiritually? You should be able to tell what success looks like. And that is the accountability part. The last two parts are advancing with technology. Where we have gotten to 2019, 2020, and 2021 has taught us a lot. That if you don't advance with technology, you are not going to advance in anything in your life. And so advancing with technology talks about how you can leverage on virtual systems that helps you not to give excuses. And if you are not very careful, you can always give yourself an excuse because of one problem or another. And so that is the last but one. And then the very last one is what I call a call to action. And in there, I say that if you don't take a deliberate action to work on your dream or your goal for this new year, you will just be like the fan who is in the stadium who is watching a match. You are not a player. Fans don't take bonuses at the end of the match. Fans only just get fun, as in F-U-N. And so if you are interested in becoming a player in 2022 and receiving bonuses, which is your reward, and the results you want, then get down to work at your goals.
I'll come back to ask you, in all of this, where do we start from? I mean, all the things that you have mentioned, the call to action, taking a retrospect, having accountability, of course, that one will be at the end of the year, and so on and so forth. Where do we start from? What is your topmost priority for a person, an individual? And I am able to say confidently, and I keep referring to it, that statement last year alone has done a lot for me, and I'm sure that those who are sharing the videos all over may have learned something from it. But I asked you that there is someone watching us who thinks, and today we are just touching on major points. In our subsequent programs, we'll go into details, and we want to dedicate the whole of this month to fresh starts, new year, fresh starts, new ideas, planning for yourself, so that by December, when we come back to ask questions, you would have answers to give us. That's to you, the viewer who is watching us, and we'll indulge our panelists to promise us that we'll have them maybe after the show. But somebody thinks that my salary is only 1,500 or 2,000. I have so many needs. I have to take care of my kids, pay their school fees. Already we have expended so much in December, and we are even relying on the 11th or the 13th month salary. And how do you expect me to save and be able to graduate into investment?
Well, you see, there's always the first step. And I think that the first step is, of course, realizing that whatever you're earning is definitely not enough to see you through the end of the month, until the next paycheck. When you've come to that realization, if you haven't, I mean, I'm sure everyone has, but you have to begin to analyze, find out, I mean, what are the things that I spend on? Are they extremely necessary? I mean, we need to scale down to the point where we know that if it is 500 that is coming in at the end of the month, it is able to meet just about 500 Ghana cedis at the end of the month. A lot of times we find out that this is next to impossible. That is why I say that you need to look at the things that you yourself you can do. So I mentioned your hobbies. Maybe there's a time to think about certain things that you can do to bring in a little bit more. Once you get to that point, you've looked at your income, looked at finding ways to, maybe raise a few things here and there, and then maybe you can get to from 500 to, like you said, 1,005. If at the end of the year you've been able to do even this, that is a good starting point. See, it is not like we're in a race to death, and at the end of the year, if we haven't been able to achieve this and this and this and this, we are done for. You know, like I remember someone told me, if by age 53, 54, you haven't had things set for you.
If you haven't bought a Range Rover.
I mean, forget it.
Yes.
So I said, I mean, maybe some of us should start thinking about forgetting it. But that really isn't it. Because, you know, you have up to, let's say, 60 for most of us who are working formally or maybe in the public sector. But it doesn't mean that at, let's say, 59, you can't start putting things together. Of course, the earlier you start, the better for you. But there's always the time when, I mean, you have to sit down, start analyzing, and then begin to do something. I think he mentioned that it's not just about, you know, thinking about what you need to do, but another thing too is action. You need to take a deliberate stance and decide that this is what you are going to do. There are times when one or two things that you plan to do may not work. You must have a plan B. You must know that if this doesn't work, it is for this reason. I need to quickly try this other thing. You need to try one or two things and find out what really works for you. And then begin to do that and expect something coming out of that. You need to also look at the expenses bit, trying to whittle it down. Make sure that the things that you are spending on are things that are really necessary. They have to be done. And really for some of them, they could even be investments. You know, so you are expending towards your children's school fees and all that, but it is deliberate and it is for a certain intention for the future.
I earn 1,500 Ghana cedis. I want to be able to at least buy a land by the end of the year. 1,500 Ghana cedis, how much do I spend on my family and still be able to save or do an investment and still buy the land?
See, that is why you have to look at not just what you are expending on now, but some of the things that you plan to do. Are they realistic enough? Do you think that right now that you haven't been able to, let's say, figure out what you are going to do to earn a little bit more, you can plan to buy land at this cost by the end of the year? So one of the things that I always say is that have your plans, let them be realistic. Let them be audacious too. You know, you are looking at a plan. It shouldn't be, okay, I earn 1,005. By the end of the year, I should be able to buy 2 pairs of shoes. You know, you probably need those pairs of shoes, but is it audacious enough? I mean, is that all that you can think about doing? So you need to set yourself and, I mean, stretch your plan a little bit so that it's more aspirational. It's a bit, aspirational.
Right. So let me come to Doc. I was on a question for you. Which one is your topmost action that we should be looking at now? But just before that, is it wishful to think that I am a Christian, a very good one? I serve as an usher at the Victory Bible Church International. Is it wishful to think that by the end of the year, I'm praying to God that I should have $1 million?
So 2 things. Wishful is only when you have not deliberately put any plan to the big picture you want to achieve. So there's nothing wrong with what figure you want to, for example, the 1 million target. There's nothing wrong with it. It looks exciting, it looks ambitious and everything. But drill it down. That $1 million or 1 million Ghana cedi target, how do you want to achieve it? When exactly do you want to achieve it? So let's use it as a case. So I want to achieve $1 million. At the moment, what do you earn to be able to put something aside to achieve that. Or you want to achieve it beyond your earnings. If you want to achieve it beyond your earnings, what are your total earnings aside your salary? So if you look at your total earnings, if you even lump all of them together, by the end of the 12 months, will it give you that amount? If it won't give you that amount, then you can tell that it is just a wish list because it's not realistic enough. And if it even adds up together, put together all your expenses, and you notice that when you divide your income, in terms of expense on the income, you will see that there are things in your life that are discretionary to spend on. There are things that are statutory to spend on. And so if I put the statutory ones that I don't have any leisure not to spend on them, the ones that are discretionary that I can play with, if I don't touch it even and I put all together into one, will it give me that? If it won't, then you have to either stretch the duration in achieving that, or you increase the contributions that must come in to add up to that sum. That is why when you are putting together any goal for a new year, you must walk it through a deliberate strategy. So after you said, I want to achieve A or B, you ask yourself the hard question: what must I do to take me to achieving this? Within what time frame can I do this? So that it may not even be a year, but probably 5 years, probably be 10 years, probably 15 years. But then you begin from where you are, so that it could be 2022 to maybe 2032. But this year, you are making an effort to work towards achieving it. So don't expect that all of a sudden in 2022, everything you are supposed to achieve in life must happen this year. It is not strategic. It is only wishful.
Maybe it could be the turnaround point for me.
Well, turnaround points don't just happen.
It comes with the deliberate strategy. Right. So tonight, what you must learn is that no matter what it is, you should have a deliberate strategy and a deliberate plan. You can't just have a wish. You can't just go to church on 31st night. I subscribe to that. But you can't just have that and come back home to sit down and think that by the end of the year, manna is going to fall from heaven for you. You need to plan. You need to look at your salary size. You need to be able to look at the things you spend on and the things you do not need to spend on. What is very audacious for you. Work towards C's. And by the end of the year, you will have something to say. Let me just give you the last 30 seconds. Where do we find a copy of this book?
You can go to Amazon and type New Year Fresh Starts, or you can send a request to info@flfafrica.com and flfafrica.com.
Okay, but there's a phone number we can contact you.
You can call 02019 11191. 02019 11191. Okay. If you are not in Ghana, you are +33.
Right, so you see the book on the screen now, and if you want to get a copy of it, flfafrica.com or 02019111191, or you can go to Amazon and get a copy of it. We'll try and see if we can catch him to go through topic by topic. And let me give the final words to you, Kwadwo. Just plan and make sure that it's working for you.
Yes, definitely, and make sure you start early enough. Best is, of course, to start before the beginning of the year, and make sure that before it is too late, you have something, you've been able to work out something that ensures that at the end of the month, you are beginning to realize that you can save 10 cedis, you can save 5 cedis here and there. Put all that together and move on and start an investment. Speak with an investment advisor or a corporate trustee. Let them walk you through what things that money can do for you, so that you begin to get closer and closer to the things that you aspire for.
Right, so thank you very much, gentlemen. And one thing you need to note, I think I have some 30 seconds to give you as well for your final words.
Very, very simple. Because you talk about being godly and going to church and everything. In Luke 14, verse 28,
right,
Jesus expressed surprise at something for the first time. And it was a question. He said, is there any man who goes to war and does not first sit down to count the costs? Is there anybody who wants to build a house and does not first sit down to count the costs? So you actually be surprised in heaven just by saying you want $1 million when you have not
without planning. You'll be surprising heaven by saying that you want $1 million without counting the cost, without doing your analysis, without planning, without strategizing, and without working towards a very realistic goal. And in all of this, note that it is not about your finances alone. They have mentioned your marriage, they have mentioned your health, they have mentioned all aspects of your life. And it's been an exciting edition. Unfortunately, we are not able to read the very numerous messages that have come, but we do very much acknowledge all your messages. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. Kwadwo Acheampong is a senior investment analyst and head of OctaneDC Research. Dr. Richmond Kwame Frimpong is an Arthur New Year Fresh Start. He's a financial expert as well. My name is Kwadwo Acheampong and I'm your host. Thank you very much for watching us tonight. Good evening.